Hi, it's 1,991 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, right on the border. Right on the border. Matter of fact, El Paso is the Siamese, I call it the Siamese sister, the Siamese twin sister of El Paso. Juarez is right there. They're connected. There is a fence, right? There is a fence that separates them, but they are connected, and they're connected by tunnels. They're connected by tunnels. So I think that's a good description of Juarez and El Paso, that they are like Siamese twin sisters. And Juarez is larger, I think double the size population as El Paso. And but people come and go over that bridge. I used to live there and grew up there, and we used to go over that bridge the bridges quite a bit. So Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss. It's supposed to be a very secure. It's the sister post to base to Fort Huachuca, right? Fort Huachuca, the intelligence base, and of course, TRADOC, of course, the asymmetric warfare tactics, training on asymmetric warfare tactics, which some of them weaponize their training and their access against against us, against Richard. And so can you believe it? Military intelligence using their what we pay them to learn, right? The asymmetric warfare. We need to have new kinds of warfare like this sonic boom. But we don't need traitors. That's what we don't need. We don't need traitors. Can you imagine a casualty affairs officer being a traitor? Yeah, yeah. So we know all about that. We know all about that. So um but that's going to all be addressed. So let's see if everything is working. And yeah, it looks like everything is great. Thank you so much. We have so much to cover today on this 1,991 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and taken downstairs to a basement room that is a soundproof room. It's the arms room, and they renovated that arms room. It was the crime scene. They took our son's life there, and they renovated it with no expense spared. It's kind of like this whole Fed building, right? This whole Fed. I wonder how much it cost them to renovate the crime scene with no expense spared, right? With ignoring the protocols that regulations require to get bids and everything like that, right? They didn't do that. They just did it with no expense spared. That's all taxpayers' money, right? That's all taxpayers' money, and they just think that they could just do it and order it the way, and they have been because they're traitors. They're traitors. We involved in this case. I want to make that clear. They're traitors. Those that are involved in this case, and even worse. And so, to put your trust into a position, that position needs to be scrutinized, and that hasn't been the case. And the Senate Arms Committee has absolutely failed. I, we're not. Uh, we're not operating as a republic like we should be. We're not. Um, The checks and balances have been infiltrated, have been hijacked, and very clearly, just like the news that we received this week, it's just huge news that the narcotics databases of the United States have been infiltrated by the cartel. That they know the narcotics intelligence database information because they have access to it, and they know the whistleblowers, and they know the informants, and they know the agents, and they know ongoing investigations and cases. And so, it's really, really something that we respect about President Trump and him stopping leaks from coming out of his administration, because we know that there are bad actors, mutinous individuals that are in our traitors, really traitors that are in our government system, in our military system. And in order for him to carry out these attacks and everything that he's doing with the sonic boom, can you imagine? Everyone knows now that they used a sonic boom to extract Nicolas Maduro, but uh, you know, not before it happened that they were going to do that. So that is huge, uh, huge talent to keep these operations sealed, right? To keep them entrusted, right? Entrusted. Um, and so we know that there are ongoing investigations, and we are definitely notifying um, individuals that they need to keep their receipts, that they need to keep their records, because of future litigation that's coming on. So that's really some breaking news there. But this sonic boom is also a huge message. And I know I talked about it yesterday just a little bit, but it's just a huge, huge message to the cartels, because the cartels were not prepared for the sonic boom weapon, a sophisticated weapon. Uh, the ability to bring it, bring it on, deploy it, and then react in order to extract very quickly Maduro and his wife. That is talent. That is talent from our best of the best forces. And so the message to the cartel that are not ready for that, they're not ready for that, is that there is a new sheriff in town, and that he means what he says. And he is absolutely, he's made every indication, he's made every indication that Mexico cartel are going to be addressed. They are going to be, well, I think evidence already shows that they're being destroyed one after the other, with all of the arrests, with all of the deaths, with all of the, it's just, it's a big battle. And um, the political shifts that are going on in Mexico, and the political shifts that are going on in the United States. And I'm talking about the border states, right? I'm talking about Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Um, they're really after Texas, because I think they've got the other three, right? Um, but that is being challenged, and saving Texas is the big challenge right now, and to regain California, Arizona, and New Mexico. And I know it doesn't border, but Colorado is a big one, right? Colorado's a big one. It's really stranglehold on on that beautiful state. Um, and so, you know, all of this is really important because you cannot undo this just by might, just by force, just by a sonic boom, right? You have to do this financially. You have to turn off the spigot to the criminals, but yet turn on the spigot to the people so that they can have an economy, a vibrant economy, and not be so easily swayed to join a cartel network, right? That there needs to be prosperity in a legal sense, in a productive sense, to stop the growth or the power of the organized criminal um, cartel. You got the El Paso cartel. It's very clear. And so it takes a positive step, a good economy, in order to destroy uh, this organized crime, that they think, is worth the risk. But President Trump is showing that it's not worth the risk. And he's even giving them some options of what else to do in life to live, right? So that's why the oil is so important. That's why trade routes are so important. That's why um, gold and silver and rare earth minerals and all of the things that you need in order to build and produce. Why that's so important. And yes, I've been keeping up with the water problem in El Paso. There shouldn't be any water problem in El Paso. There's plenty of water. Um, but, there are bad actors that are going to hypnotize the people into thinking that El Paso will have to live always with limited water. When I was a child, I remember a lot more water. They let it flow, and in California, this is the debate there. They have all this water, but they need to turn it on. And the politician that was really calling for the water spigot to be turned on in California, he just passed away. R.I.P. R.I.P. So water is a huge thing that is fought over. People want power over the water because they can control people. Is I think it's a very criminal thing to try to manipulate water, right? Try to manipulate and water has memory. So water has more uh, more uses than just, of course, what we're normally using for bathing and drinking and cleaning and all of that, right? Um, Water has the ability for memory, and that makes sense because our bodies are almost all water, right? Our bodies are almost all water, and um, water has the ability to store memory. And so you hear with the whole AI thing, with the H-1B visas, it was kind of shocking. And I didn't mean to talk about this, but I just think it's so interesting that some of these people they have to do the H-1B visas because they have to bring over their own water for this uh, for this AI growth, right? It's like really okay. So when you think about it and you know some history, you absolutely know that water is very, very important in many, many different ways. Um, and and I think we're going to, uh, the most important the most important use of water besides drinking it is baptism, right? Um, and it's just amazing how God picked water, right, for baptism because it has memory. It has memory, y'all. Um, it just gives you shivers, doesn't it? It gives you shivers. Um, so it, yeah. So let's get on topic again about Richard because that is so interesting, and I can discuss it with everybody. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. And we're doing okay. It's not midnight yet, but um, so the cartel are not prepared for uh, President Trump's administration's army and what they're allowed to do, right? And the weapons they're allowed to use. And so they know. And that's why our intelligence is that there is a huge shakeup going on in Mexico. They are just shaking, shaking, shaking. And it seems like Claudia Scheinbaum is coming loose. She's coming loose. She's on her way out, and that they have a new sheriff in town, a new sheriff in town. That's what we're hearing, and we'll see. We'll see um, how this all works out. The other news, which I think is probably the biggest story we've had in a long, long, long time. Big, big story, maybe since 1914 when it was created. Um, and all hell broke loose, right, with World War One and World War Two and all the Korean War and, um, you know, everything, Iraq, Afghanistan, everything, um, is this subpoenas this grand jury on the Federal Reserve. That is jaw drop. I think that is the biggest story because, and people know this when that have been following since the beginning. Um, our family were and are very big supporters of Ron Paul. You know, he's really gotten up there in age, but when he was running for president, we were big supporters of his for the main reason of end the Fed. Because in order to have wars, in order to have this kind of level of corruption where, you know, billions of dollars don't even mean anything to people anymore, trillions of dollars, $38 trillion in debt, and we pay interest on those $38 trillion, and people don't even know what that means. That kind of money, it just destroys a country. And whoever has the authority to tax has the authority to destroy. And having those interest rates, control over the interest rates and keeping them high when you have a $38 trillion bill, you can destroy. You can absolutely destroy. And so this is why President Trump has really focused on the Federal Reserve, because, yes, it's important for the interest rates to be low for people to buy homes, right? But that's because the costs are so high, right? And the normal interest rate would be okay if the costs weren't so high. But there's so much fraud, right? There's so much fraud that our housing rates are so high. So President Trump wants the rate lower for the people and for the debt, which is the people, because the people have to pay the interest on the debt. And Powell is crying and whining. That's so mean. That's so mean. Um, you know, they make themselves out with false narratives to be much more important than what they are. And we would get along just fine. We did for a long time before 1914 get along just fine without a Federal Reserve Bank, which is a private bank. This is not, I think the word federal in its name is very deceptive because this is not government owned. Okay, this is a privately owned bank that runs the money in the United States. And you know, if I know that, um, surely President Trump, who went to the Wharton School of Finance, knows it, right? He absolutely knows it. And I thought it was a very, very beautiful thing. And I should say our family thought it was a very beautiful thing when he went and visited the renovation process of the Federal Reserve building and was standing right next to Powell, Mr. Powell, and corrected him on the spot about the overruns from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion to $3.1 billion. So, Powell was like, oh no, it's 2.5 billion. Like, that's not bad enough. And President Trump, right then and there, said, wait a minute, no, it's $3.1 billion. This is really, this is so bad. This is so bad directed. And who's in charge of the direction of the renovation? And that is Powell himself. And Powell, if he can't even manage a simple renovation of the Fed building right there in DC with, an open checkbook, I guess it's an open checkbook that he can spend whatever he wants. Um, Something is very stinky when when you have somebody that is supposed to be running the finance, the money of the rates and the money and of the United States can't even conduct an in the budget renovation of the Fed building, right, in the United States. Something is very wrong. I think we're putting our trust and, well, I think President Trump is exposing it, right? Exposing the foolishness of the Federal Reserve Bank. That why do we even have a Federal Reserve Bank? It takes our sovereignty away. And this is really important in Richard's case because in order to control people and everything, you want this position. It's a very powerful position. So, being being a Fed chair, right? Um, so I hope it gets disbanded. I'm not holding my breath, but that is my hope and prayer. And, just reach to the moon all the times. You'll land amongst the stars, right? Um, so that is really huge news. And why is that important? Because finance, a lot of people get drug into the cartel business, this terrible organ harvesting, this terrible baby harvesting with illegal cesareans, all kinds of criminal trafficking within the cartels. They get drug into it because they want to make some money. They want to make some money. So, in order to have a vibrant legal economy that doesn't make it pay to join these illegal gangs, right? And their illegal endeavors, you have to have a real economy, a real choice for a real economy. And I think good paying jobs, y'all, good paying jobs. That's what he wants. And I think that's really, really important. So, uh, yeah, and and he signs his name once again. Once again, nobody really knows how wonderful um, our family is. Really, they just it's just amazing that we're getting through this for 5.5 years. It's just really amazing. So, kudos to our entire family and how much support that we get from them. So that is really oh yes, one other huge thing that I mentioned yesterday. We were contacted by an individual that uh, had contacted El Paso Inc. less than a month after the Walmart mass shooting with information about the Mayellas being a family to the Crucius. And they kept that from the public. And then she went to um, the hospital and that describing. Sorry. It's so late. It's so late. Here we are at midnight for our safety. And we're getting tipsters and tipsters and tipsters, and we're filing them. And they're talking about the Mayellas less than a month after it happened. And El Paso Inc. doesn't report to the public. And then before the plea deal of Patrick Crucius, which we were actively requesting that Patrick Crucius have a competency hearing. Many times, multiple times. Because the Walmart mass shooting and Patrick, we knew that they were doing like what the Fed was doing with their not to the extent of 1.9 billion to 2.5 billion to 3.1 billion. I mean, who are these people to take taxpayers' money like that for overruns? Get rid of them. End the Fed. They're destroying our country. They're a Minneapolis daycare center. That's what they are. This that's in quotes, because these daycare centers don't even have any children. Right? Who are they? And then you have El Paso Inc. not telling the public about the Crucius Mayella connection, which would change everything. At the very beginning. What a traitor. What a traitor. And then you have um, this individual calling the DA's office before the plea deal that Joe Spencer, open checkbook Spencer, who is taking, just like this, the fraud. I want an open checkbook, and we're going to draw it out really long because my golf partner, Sam Madrano, is the judge, and we're going to draw this out, and we're going to squeeze money out of the taxpayer. No, we're not. We're going to just have an open checkbook, and it's just going to come flowing out for years and years. And I'm going to be able to play as much golf as I want, while the people are, trying to get money for milk and eggs and for their families and school and cars and insurance and everything. But he's having an open checkbook of taxpayers' money for a case that he knows and is keeping a secret to the public, not telling them that Patrick Crucius, is related to the federal courthouse manager to a person that's in the FBI office, to a person that's in the DA's office, to a person that is cybersecurity at Walmart, is severely autistic since childhood without a competency hearing. That's why we were pushing for the competency hearing, because it would reveal truth. Because that's what Richard was doing. Richard knew that Fort Bliss was connected to the Walmart mass shooting. And El Paso Inc. is not interested in truth, and we know that for a fact. We know that for a fact. And it would take me a few hours to tell you everything about El Paso Inc. and that whole mess. That whole mess. And now we get the tipster that they knew, before a month had gone by. And were we advocating for Patrick Crucius? Patrick Crucius for Patsy. We were advocating and still are for his rights, because that means everybody's rights. But he's on record admitting to killing one or two. But the last time I heard, it was 23 that were dead. What happened to the other 20? And who told us about the one or two? Well, it was Joe Spencer's audios. But see, they just kept a cover up, because without the cover up, Richard's whistleblowing complaints, Richard's um, the foul play surrounding Richard, and the cover up of his taking of his life would all be revealed. The solving of the Walmart mass shooting case, who are the extra shooters, what really happened, which I'm sure the Mayellas could give us a lot of insight, but because they covered it up, they prevented witnesses, they prevented a trial, they prevented evidence from getting out, they prevented witnesses for having to swear under oath and be questioned, so that the public would know what happened. And if that happened, then Richard's case would be solved also. But they weren't interested in that. They were interested in a cover up, but they wanted to be paid, so they had to do their little scamming. And it's really disgusting. And we have a much bigger scammer that causes a lot of death, and his name is Jerome Powell. I mean, think about it. 1.9 billion dollars is not a million. It's not even 50 million or 100 million or 200 million or 500 million or 700 million or 800 million dollars. 800 million dollars. Think about that. $1 billion, $1.9 billion for a renovation, and he can't keep to budget. That's how much they approved, $1.9 billion for this renovation of the Fed building that robs us year in and year out ever since 1914, and causes think about all the people that died in World War I, all the people that died in World War II, all the people that died in Korea, all the people that died in Vietnam, all the people that died. I just saw a veteran today, um, uh, with, just one leg. Think about the harm, think about the death, and that's all funded but because we have a Federal Reserve. Because one comes with the other, and that's the IRS. And if you haven't listened or read um, Ron Paul's book on that or anything, I would highly recommend it because it's very, very important to financing all of this stuff. That's so evil. And eh, President Trump just absolutely decimated the Fed by being transparent that the Federal Reserve, you think that that would happen under a different president? I don't think so. They would have just kept it quiet from us. That $1.9 billion wasn't enough for his renovation project. 2.5 wasn't enough for his renovation project. Now it's up to $3.1 billion. It's a huge, huge story, and it's getting covered up because of this Iran. It's getting covered up because of other stories, and it is so big. It is so big and so important. It funds a lot of fraud, clearly. And then it shows the incompetency of the Fed chairman. He's supposed to be at the helm steering our economy, and he doesn't even know how to read his own records when it comes to the renovation because he's standing there with Trump and he's like, oh, it's 2.5, and Trump is like, no, right there, $3.1 billion of overruns. It's it really is. Yeah, I needed to wake myself up and um just tell the hard truth that we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We have to pay attention, and we absolutely cannot allow this to happen because it just spirals downward into hell. And the next thing you know, our lives are, political prisoners. I mean, think about Venezuela. They were eating out of the garbage can. Thank God that's over with now. And they were, so many people that spoke out became political prisoners. We have to be on this before this happens. We already had political prisoners with January 6th. You know, really? We're descending backwards where we have political prisoners, and now we have, and this is kind of breaking news too. This Renee Nicole Macklin, right? Macklin Good. She has very, very, very tight connections to Colorado Springs. That God, how her getting shot is going to reveal, if they have a trial, it's going to reveal her connections. And her connections are clearly with this same group that is connected to um, the Charlie Kirk's death and our son's death. The same group. And the media, that's why the media is just pouring out like, oh, she's a mother of three, which, oh, fine, fine. And, I hope she rests in peace. But she was there to be no good, to do no good. And when you're causing trouble and instigating and, um, you know, in the snow, in the ice, with law enforcement that have guns, um, and you're teasing them and you're prodding them and you're you know I I just and people have to say, "Well, why was she doing that? Why was she doing that?" Well, because she has connections, and those connections have something big to lose if um if the ICE officers are allowed to do their job. So you know, the rest you can kind of fill in. But she is not just some random person. Just like Patrick Crucius was not just a random person. And the Mayellas are not just a random family. And what happened to President Trump, what happened with the attempts on his life, what happened to Charlie Kirk, what happened to Richard are not just random. They are an operation. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to leave it at that because it's oh, thank you so much for sharing the in the line of duty. We've had that for almost a year, and I just thought I need to put it out there. I need to put it out there for everyone to see because they're not reporting on it. The people that we trust the most, like where's PAO Allie Payne? Is she in Colorado Springs? Is she at Walt Disney? Because she was at Walt Disney, y'all. She was at Disney with um what's that guy? Brown Bell. With Brown Bell, who was attacking us. Um in these years, okay? I'm going back a little bit in time, but um and this is all connected. And the PAO for Fort Bliss should have absolutely put out a press conference. And Sean Bernabe and James Eisenhower and uh, Curtis Taylor, they should have all put out um, an update. And they should have rallied around Richard, but they're traitors. They're absolute traitors. And, they didn't make a move without the JAG. So we're very, we have a lot more power than what we know. And this has been such a great example of that because look at how many shares just in the line of duty. And uh, it's just amazing. It's just gone viral. That means a lot of people care about Richard. It means a lot of people care what happens with this case. And so I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. And we're going to keep going. It's it's all this whole Maduro thing, this whole uh, Scaroldi thing, Soroldi thing. A lawyer getting arrested like that, and Montoya being so out. He's being so outed. Um, it's just amazing for La Diabla to be arrested, for the cartel to be so weakened, because no matter what we did in El Paso, if we didn't first address the cartel's power and its infiltration, because it has access to our narcotics database, our narcotics intelligence database, the cartel does. And so there's a rhyme and a reason why President Trump is doing the things that he's doing. And um, he's thought about this a long time. And so it's happening. And he has to navigate through all of these different countries and all of their different dynamics, and then our own, and of course, Mexico. I think he's going to save Mexico, from what I'm hearing. I think the people of Mexico, they they won't even understand um until all of a sudden they have their sovereignty back. It's the intelligence coming out right now is just amazing. And just keep saying your prayers, and thank you so much, because, and I just want to end with this note: this is the vicious negotiation for the repatriation of Richard's remains. That's what this is. And it's just that important. It's that important. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back.